Welcome back to Jamin's Daily. Today we have a special guest, but a recurring one. We have Seth Caylor, producer extraordinaire.
Head button pusher
For CCISD Technology. One day, right, Seth? One of these days,
That's
people
right.
know him.
Yeah.
I'm catching some of that
light.
Yeah. Turn it just a little to, there we go. That'll work. So Seth,
Yes.
folks and
Right.
ladies and gentlemen, folks at home, we're going to have a 80s horror review.
Oh.
Okay, but this time with a guest. We've done one before, and the first one we did, Seth, it was, I'm talking low budget. It was, I made a joke that when I was watching it on Samsung, like internet TV, I felt like, other people are streaming things and watching stuff, right? So how many people do you think watch Avengers Infinity War or something, in a single day, streaming all around the world? Probably thousands of people are watching it. I said, I felt like I was the only person, I can't even remember what the name of the movie was. Necropolis. Necropolis.
Yeah,
okay, it was super 80s budget, and I was like, I felt like I was the only person in the world who watched that show on that given day. Okay, so I felt like I had accomplished something. But we watched a new movie. This one was it was actually fairly entertaining, Seth. So you need to look at, while we're talking, Seth's gonna be looking it up as well, so we can talk about it, because I've seen it.
Okay.
He hasn't, but it was called Forbidden World, and it's a 1982 horror sci-fi. So it's a little bit of an alien knockoff. A bit of an alien knockoff. But
I see it. Yes.
But what they had that aliens did not have was some very attractive women.
Yes, I can tell by the movie poster here. The very voluptuous,
yes,
blonde, like getting eaten by a big tick ant looking thing.
So there's two women. One's name is, in the movie, it's Barbara and Tracy.
All right.
Barbara is the blonde, Tracy is the brunette, and they're full on nude multiple times throughout the movie. There's there's one love scene or sex scene. And gratuitous nudity.
June Chadwick as Dr. Barbara Glasser.
Yes.
And what was the other one? Tracy Baxter is Dawn Dunlap.
Her name is Dawn Dunlap?
That's her her real name.
Okay, so let's look into some of my notes.
Tracy and Barbara.
When we're talking about the movie. So it kind of starts off with, they're in a spaceship, and what's always cool about watching these is the cheesy graphics.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then this one is done like in 82. So it's expected, but
sure.
It's just this weird. You watch these movies from a different perspective, strange perspective that others didn't.
Right.
And they're not very long. This movie was, I think, an hour and 20 minutes long. It was not very long, so it makes them easy to get through.
Yeah.
But it starts off with this guy. There's a robot flying a ship, and there's this guy in stasis. Right? Yeah. There's a human in stasis.
Of course, there is.
There's always, so he's in stasis. Again, this is an aliens, kind of knockoff, right? So he's in stasis. The robot comes and wakes him up, and as he's waking up, he has these flashbacks of what's to come. And the cool thing about in these flashbacks, some of the flashbacks are of the female, his female friends.
I see.
Okay, and so he wakes up. He's like, "Where are we?" And the robot tells him we're onto something. And there's this strange scene in this movie that has nothing to do with the movie at all, right? Because soon after he gets awakened, they're like attacked by some other spaceship, and there's this space battle that takes place for like 5 minutes. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
It's supposed to bring some kind of drama, right? And there's these cheesy lasers going here and there, and they defeat. They win this little battle amongst other spaceships trying to shoot them down, and then there's this mayday or a call over the intercom, And so while they're doing this, there's this clear 80s. The setting is they're in this ship, right? And they're doing things.
Lots of flashing lights and knobs and stuff, I'm sure.
Okay. Exactly. Flashing lights and knobs. And he gets a call from, like, headquarters saying that there's been a mayday or an emergency on some...
I gotta go pick it up or go help him out.
Some secret lab facility on some planet. Because he was like, oh, I thought I was going to go home. Because this guy is like some kind of, I don't know, mercenary, either government, future... Maybe he works for the Galactic Empire or something, and he's like a fixer-upper mercenary guy. Yeah. So he thinks he's going home. They're telling him, no, you need to go over here. There's an emergency at this research lab. We need for you to go over there and help them.
I see. And his description in the plot of this is he's a professional troubleshooter.
Ooh.
Mike Colby with his robot assistant, Sam 104.
There we go. He's like the wolf from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
The professional troubleshooter.
Yeah, there you go.
He's like the wolf.
The cleanup man. All right.
So they show up. I'm glad, Seth, that's amazing. I'm glad you brought up. So we're going to go along through here. So I'm not even going to read my notes until I have to, okay? I'm going to just remember this from memory.
Yeah.
So they arrive on the Forbidden World, right? This planet. And it's a research facility, and they land, and they kind of like in an airport, there's a hangar of sorts, and they get in. There's like a corridor, and the door opens. And they're greeted by Barbara.
Yes.
The good-looking blonde. And the head, like, research guy.
All right.
Okay. They're kind of talking about what's kind of going on. Thank you for showing up, et cetera, et cetera. And from the very beginning, Seth, from when Barbara makes her scene, the very first scene that she's in, there is this ooze of 80s... misogyny, okay, of 80s. Like, this woman is in this movie, and her role is to just be smoking hot.
Yep.
And she's already making these, giving all the cues of the sex symbol in the movie.
Sure.
And so
typical 80s style.
80s style. And so, and guess what, Seth? In the movie, kid you not, in the movie, so they're wearing, I guess, normal kind of. The doctor guy, the man is the man is wearing a lab coat kind of thing. Okay. The female is wearing like a white blouse with, I would say, looser fitting kind of leggings, but not too loose, so you can still use your there's enough, but not too much. But she's wearing. Guess what kind of footwear? What kind of footwear do you think a research person in outer space would wear?
Well, in a 1982 movie, or
well, yeah. Well, what do you think would be appropriate?
I'm gonna go both ends. I'm gonna go either flip flops or high heels.
She was wearing glass style, like when you can see through them. Some kind of
stripper shoes.
See-through glass high heels.
Wow.
Yes, both of her and Tracy. Later on, you see Tracy walking around.
Futuristic.
That's why they were glass style, like see-through, because that's the futuristic style. So they're walking down the corridor, and the main researcher guy is taking them to what the problem is.
Yep.
Okay. And so they get into this room, and before they get into the room, Seth, they go into one of these like a debriefing room where they get showered by some type of light that's supposed to kill all the any kind of bacteria and stuff like that. So in the 1982, you think like, wow, that's so cool, right? Now everything, that's probably what they should do, right? But so they spend a whole scene doing that. They're still talking about stuff. Finally, they get into the lab where it's like a bloodbath. Okay, they're working on. Originally, there's like a food shortage, so they're working on creating like food supply or something. And you learn later in the movie all the different moving parts of what's going on. But they created this organism called the
Subject 20.
The metamorph.
Oh.
It's called a metamorph, which is weird because I think in the movie Alien they're called xenomorph.
Probably.
Something like that. Yes, they are.
They just went through and changed a few letters.
Yes. Okay, so this one's it's called a metamorph. And when you first see it, it's this spider-looking kind of thing because they were able to contain it in some kind of.
It's on the cover of the movie poster. Yeah.
Okay, so it's able,
got a big brain-looking thing,
and it metamorphs. So later on, it gets bigger. It's a metamorph. So it is some kind of metamorphosis as it's going on.
Were they planning on eating these? Was that why they built this? No, or are they going to eat bacteria? Right.
The metamorph is what you find out later is that there's this whole life circle of life within what they created. And how the metamorph came about because of it.
Okay.
Right? But it all has to do with the research for trying to make more food.
Sure.
And the metamorph. So when they're looking at it, so when they're looking in the lab,
I see.
People are dead. They look at this metamorph. It's in this kind of glass container thing. It's been contained. Mm-hmm. They're explaining that it went violent. They don't know exactly what happened, but they don't want to kill it because they're still this part of the research and stuff.
I see.
So the fixer-upper, what is his name?
Mike Colby.
Mike. So Mike says, "Hey, show me the rest." And so during the movie, so at this point they see that, then he walks around, he gets introduced to the rest of the crew. What you're looking at, does it have any of the other crew members?
Oh yeah, it's got them all. And and the bug, I guess, is called Subject 20, and it injects its victims with proto-B DNA.
Yes.
And then they turn into a gelatinous pile of pure protein.
That's exactly what happened.
All right, so we've got Mike Colby, we have Tracy, Barbara, we have Gordon Hauser, he's Dr. Gordon Hauser, Dr. Cal Timbergen, Brian, Earl, Jimmy, and Sam, the 104. That's
okay, so cast. There's two different kinds of doctors. The researcher guy, I think, is Gordon.
Yeah.
Well, who was the other one? There's another one.
Dr. Cal Timbergen.
Okay, he's like the hero, one of the heroes at the end. So he wears glasses. He's very eccentric, kind of the doctor.
Yeah.
The Gordon in the movie is he's kind of corporate, chill, like he's not a likable. Yes. He doesn't seem like a likable person. Also,
by the rules.
Yeah. So that's the character he plays. Yeah. Tracy plays kind of the young, inexperienced researcher person. Where Barbara is the more mature, older part. The other two, so when they at one point Mike is with these people, they're going around within the facility. They send some guy. It was actually Tracy's boyfriend. I don't know what his name is. It might be Brian, Earl,
or Jimmy.
It was Jimmy.
Okay, Jimmy Swift.
Pretty sure.
Jimmy Swift.
I'm pretty sure. I'm looking at my notes and see which one of these.
So you watched this movie and took copious notes about
it? Took copious notes.
Nice.
Wait, Proto B. So I have notes here about Proto B, and so it's Hafted. No, let me see. Colby is the pilot. I have notes here. Says she's a hot blonde. Jimmy, here he goes. A moron facility worker still has the incubator open, so it's Jimmy. Okay, so they send. Jimmy. So Jimmy goes in there to like keep watch of what's going on while everybody else is walking around. They're showing Mike the deal, and Jimmy is kind of walking around, and it's still a bloodbath in there. And he decides the container thingy that the metamorph is in. There's like a window, so he opens it.
Smart.
Okay, so he opens it, and he doesn't just open it. He opens it, and then he kind of like does this, and at that point, it's like vibrating. It's starting to move,
and he's still just standing there.
And so it's like that's what drew his attention. I guess he's like, it's moving, so let me get a really close look on it, right? So he goes and looks, and it's one of those quintessential horror things where you think something's gonna happen, and so while he's in there, it's like the intercom comes in. It's like Jimmy, and he's like, it's one of those.
I'm sure there's a word for that.
For that movie technique, that directing technique or something.
I'm sure.
So that happens, but then ultimately, when you thought that was gonna happen at that point, but later it does happen again. So then, at some other point, he's in there, and the metamorph attacks him and clings to his face, the side of his face, and it's able to then jump off. And the cool thing is it's using 80s graphics, FX. You know, what would you call this? Not costume design, but like,
creature.
Creating these, so it shows scenes of like, so half of his face is missing. It's all gory, and he falls down, and he doesn't die. So they come. So then no. So they see on the intercom or something. So they go. They try to help him, and this is where you were talking about. So the xenomorph, when it bit him, it injected him with this proto B.
Yes.
Which then breaks. So then later on, his body starts to decompose, and it looks like, in my notes I said it looks like it's like a giant. It turns into like a giant. Brain, very oozy, gelatinous is the word they said, right?
Yeah.
Was that on Wikipedia?
It's on Wikipedia.
Gelatinous was just not in my vocabulary at the moment.
No, it's okay.
That is a perfect word.
Yeah,
because that's exactly what it was. It was gelatinous. And so he gets killed, and now the thing is on the loose. Again, very, very similar to. Aliens, so now this alien is within the research facility, and soon after that, Mike gets seduced. So he's like, it's kind of an evening, and they're all going to their different areas or bays.
Right.
And as he's walking through the corridor, he like kind of looks to his right, and Barbara is standing like by her room, and she kind of gives him this, sultry stare. And I don't know if she like says just straight up, hey, come over here, but she does. She says something like how we don't see new faces and things like this. So he goes in there, and straight up they get to it. And what's strange, what in the movie, so then this cheesy 80s music is going on, right? And when Mike is going in there with Barbara, one of the other crew workers kind of sees. So when they go in there, this guy has like access. He's part of like security or I guess whatever. He's able to log in through the system and find the camera that's in her room. Okay.
All right.
So part of the it would just be like the cinematography is the view from the camera, from the surveillance camera of the sex scene. Okay, in addition to then just normal scene, and it's very creeper because it shows the guy watching, and it goes into and while this is happening, you start to then get a first person perspective from the metamorph itself. Yeah, it's like up above. And it looks like you're looking through water because it's real blurry kind of thing, right?
Because you wouldn't have eyes like us.
Exactly. Who knows? How would it see, right? Yeah. And nothing happens. It ends and they leave. And let me remember. I watched this a week ago. I thought I was going to talk about this the next day, and I didn't. So here it says strange sex scene, upbeat music. With crew dude creepily watching. Those are my notes. Okay, my notes are creepily watching. It says he has a zapper. So there's a security warning that interrupts the sex scene, and the perv crew member gets up to inspect. And he walks down. Oh, so this guy ends up getting jacked up because he's got the zapper kind of futuristic pistol. And he's walking down corridors. It gets dark. And he goes into Annie. So this is stuff that is later revealed. He goes into Annie's locker because something happened to Annie. So he was part of the crew, right?
Okay. So
and he takes a necklace out of her. And we found out. I can tell you exactly. I can tell you now. Right? But he takes something out of hers and puts it into Earl's locker. It's a necklace, and he puts it in hers, which is, I don't even realize why, but it says so. While he's doing that, the same guy's also having like these flashes of, I don't know if the metamorph can like mess with their brains or something, but he starts having visuals of the sex scene going on. He's still looking up, so he comes up on the metamorph, and I think the metamorph is projecting the sex scene into the guy's mind because the metamorph was watching it with him at the same time. So then the metamorph ends up attacking him and kills him. And they're still, I think what happened was the sex scene was going on. So they're still doing it.
Yeah.
He's the one who got distracted and went looking for the metamorph and got killed.
Yeah.
While the other two are still, taking care of business.
But he had to go do a very important plot part by moving the necklace thing first, though, right? So.
Yes, he's setting up the whole Annie and Earl thing. Yes.
Gotcha.
This is correct. So Seth, the next scene then cuts to a visual of the entire facility on the Forbidden World, right?
Uh-huh.
And then the next scene cuts to the doctor, what was his name? Not Gordon, the other one.
Cal Timbergen.
So it cuts to Cal Timbergen, and he's working. It shows him like he's examining the body, Jimmy, the guy who got bit in the face.
I see.
He's examining.
So he's still alive.
He's alive, but he's
yet.
barely.
Yes.
Like he's like a coma. He's legally alive,
okay.
but he's not moving or interacting.
Like a breathing gelatinous blob, maybe.
That's exactly what I believe he is at the time.
Yeah.
And
so just real quick, let me just say, because it does say in the description of this movie, just real fast, because I read it, and it's frequently paired and compared. No, wait. It's generally panned by critics as cheap, exploitive imitation of the movie Alien, with sex, nudity, uneven editing, cheap special effects, and an audio track that some found unpleasant.
Yes. So you almost need to read that. Read that one more time, Seth. Okay, read that one more time for the audience.
Generally panned by critics as cheap, exploitive imitation of the movie Alien, with sex, nudity, uneven editing, cheap special effects, and an audio track that some found unpleasant. So
it was a cheap, exploitive, knockoff of Alien, and
Alien ripoff, and though it says that it's frequently compared to another movie called Galaxy of Terror, so you might need to watch that one.
Let me make a note. Galaxy of Terror?
Yes.
I don't have a piece of pen. Let me write
Which, with Forbidden World, shares some of the same sets.
Galaxy of Terror.
Yes. Hey, but this is interesting. Did you know who designed those sets for Forbidden World and Galaxy of Terror? James Cameron.
Oh, and he's a big guy. He's just getting started. I mean, the thing about it is, I'll tell you what, the set itself within the facility is not B-level cheesy. Sure. It's actually fairly good, like in terms of what the...
See, that's the James Cameron. That's why he got noticed. Probably this movie got him on the spot.
Right? He made his bones on Forbidden World. But yeah, it's not the set so much that makes it corny compared to Aliens,
acting in the
it's so much more. The
seductive cougar doctor.
But
sorry, I got you off track.
Depending on your preference, that's one of the reasons. The reasons that makes this movie it redeems itself slightly because of the eye candy. Okay, for sure. So
absolutely.
So I wrote on here. So the scientist guy, he's smoking. So he's a smoker, and this will be relevant later on. And he's working on the guy Jimmy, who was attacked by the metamorph. And the body is literally like melting. And I wrote in here on my notes, pretty cool effects. And so then it cuts to a scene of Tracy in her like cabin, waking up. So she's waking up, and I wrote here, it says, Tracy awakes. Damn, she's hot. Wearing skimpy spaghetti string top and short shorts in white. Okay, in white. So again, you can vision this at home. Okay, and it says now she's walking the corridors. She's wearing sunglasses. Okay, in a research facility in a corridor. There's no sun. Literally,
she just wanted to feel normal.
So there's eerie music, and so then she walks. So she's walking to the bath. So she's waking up, and then she's going to take a shower. So she's walking into like the locker room of sorts.
Yep.
And I put here, I can see she's walking to the bathroom /shower, ... More boob action, I wrote on here. And full backside in view. She's getting ready to bathe. And the metamorph, though, at this point, is in the room. So you start getting that first-person view of the metamorph, what is it, Peeping Tom. He's watching her, and it's through a slimy goo. That's what I put on here. There's this slimy goo whenever the metamorph is around, there's this gooey.
Sure.
You start seeing it. It shows it like dripping down, and that's how he's seeing his perspective, right?
And big time in Aliens too. That whole dripping out of its mouth and stuff.
Yes. Okay. So I put here. So the chick is now lounging, fully nude. So she's like, it's almost like in a sauna. She's just laying in there, taking a steam bath or something. All right, and she's just. I put that there were some great camera angles in order to avoid the cha-cha. Right, because her leg, every angle that when they pan from one angle to the next, she's like, because she's fully nude, dude. I mean, she is fully nude in this scene, and she's like, every angle changes so that you can't see her vagina. Okay.
I don't know what makes me laugh harder is your description of this or your notes.
Dude, I took like four notes, 4 pages of notes. But which is why, when at school, when I was studying liberal arts and I was a history major, I used to take lots of notes and just read it again. That's how I would learn. So she hears something, right? Guess who it is? When she hears this, now she hears something. So obviously it's not the metamorph.
Oh, it's not.
You think it would be
the Colby guy, Mike?
Yes,
no,
it's Mike.
He's both.
Dude, he shows up. And again, you have this very creeper like conversation. Bad writing, bad dialogue of like, oh, what are you doing here? It's like at first she's like, oh, what are you doing here? And he's trying to explain how he's just like doing a patrol. Right, he's just patrolling. He's got some kind of cheesy. It looks like a cheesy weapon on him, and she's like, "Oh well." She says something. He looks like he's dirty, or he needs to relax. And she gets up from where she's at, and she comes up to him, and she's on a platform. So she bows down kind of then onto her knees. It almost looks like with the way the scene is going, it looks like she's fixing to go down on him, but she's helping him get undressed.
Of course.
Right? And as she does that, you see these, again, she's fully nude, and he's got like these war wounds and stuff. He's all, so then they don't just jump into it. He kind of like relaxes and lays over. And she gets back to where she was. And when she gets back to where she was, that's when the metamorph attacks from above. But Mike is able to save her, and they get out. Okay. And they're met up with the rest of the crew. So let's look at the notes again. So it says. She tells, oh no, remember, so at one point she told him to get naked. All right.
Yep.
And and I put in here that there's bush. We have bush. So you could see the bush. So the other crew come to the scene. Oh, so when the metamorph breaks into the shower room and they have to bail out, close the door, when they meet, the other crew members come to their rescue or come to see what happened. Barbara comes and she realizes that Mike and Tracy were in there together, and she's a little jealous.
That's funny.
So then the next scene cuts to Barbara again, very this Oscar-worthy type. She's walking down the corridor, and so you can imagine the camera angle following her walking down the corridor. It's very Charlie's Angel-ish kind of vibe. Okay, late 70s. She got that kind of Farrah Fawcett feathered hair going on. Exactly, and even body style, kind of long legs.
Yeah.
She goes into the research lab room. She goes into the room where the doctor, the smoker, what was his name again? I keep forgetting.
Cal, I believe.
Dr. Cal. She goes into his room, and she asks him, what's going on. He's still researching Jimmy's body, and this is where Cal's the guy who kind of gets the story going, telling us about what's going. Right. So he tells her. So it says this scene is the dying, melting guy, Jimmy, being inspected by the doctor, Dr. Cal, on the table. I put here, it looks like a jelly-style gooey with red tentacles and kind of looks like intestines, but, very alien-looking.
Yep.
It says here the crew is getting ready to venture out into the planet and leave the facility. So Mike and Dr. Gordon and... It's not Earl. At first, I thought Earl was the black guy, but I think his name is something else. Those three, along with the robot, venture out to because I think maybe the metamorph has gotten out. That's why they're looking for him.
Okay.
And so it says the forbidden planet looks like Mars, and then it cuts to another scene where now the doctor is looking at the ooze. That ooze that the alien is dropping. Yeah. Dr. Cal. And the alien thing begins to split. And the doctor says that the sole purpose of the metamorph is to reproduce. Which it has something to do with that prototype B. They used that because they thought that they could use that to duplicate like food organism protein. So then you would...
Gotcha.
You have an unlimited quantity of food because you're using this that would multiply it, and so but what happened was the metamorph is using this as a food supply for itself, kind of way. Like that's its life cycle. It eats its prey, and then it does something to the prey, and then the prey,
like a spider, kind of melts the insides and sucks it
out. Maybe.
Yep.
So look, 2 more pages here.
Dang.
So the doctor hypothesizes that since Jimmy was attacked by the metamorph, Jimmy's body cells have been devolving into a single cell blob, which it then believes will then use as its own food source. Yeah. So while the crew is out in the forbidden world, Seth, Tracy is monitoring them. Okay, so she's good old Tracy. She actually gets some pretty good. Maybe I think. Her casting couch session. Yeah. Her casting couch session probably went really well. Yeah. Okay. She did really good on the casting couch because she gets a lot of scenes. Okay. So now she's sitting here and she's getting some real estate. Okay, talking, and they find Earl. So as they're out there, they're looking around. There's different camera angles of them looking for maybe they're looking for another cocoon because that's what it was referred to. That the metamorph, when you see it in this weird state originally, that was in that little that came out and attacked Jimmy. The incubator thing. Yeah, it's like in its cocoon form. So they're looking for a cocoon, and as they're looking up, Earl, like half dead or devolving Earl falls from, and he's one of those scary scenes. So they find Earl, who had been missing, and they do find the metamorph cocoon atop a cliff, and it says here Tracy can also see it. So again, in the cinema, the way the camera angles are, they're using not just the first person perspective or from the people there, but then what Tracy's seeing on the camera. And I put here that the cocoon looks like a spider. It says Mike wants to kill the cocoon, but the head research guy Gordon doesn't. Yeah. And they shoot at the cocoon, it falls off, but when they go up to the cocoon, it's empty. Whatever was in it is not in there anymore, right?
Well, hey, you just almost used the word cinematography.
Yeah, real quick. Cinematography.
So this cinematographer guy, his name is Tim Scherstedt. This was his very first movie, but he went on to do lots and lots of stuff. He's best known for Little Miss Sunshine, Office Space, The Wedding Singer, Mystic Pizza, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Major League, The Hot Chick, and he won an Emmy for Chicago Hope. So there you go.
So you can't knock Forbidden World because it helped people whether it was cheesy or not.
Launched this guy's career.
It helped, it helped him hone his craft.
There you go.
So, yes, the cocoon is empty. The metamorph, what came out of it? That's the what you're left to think. What came out of this cocoon? So the head Gordon, once he finds out that there's nothing in it. He starts to run, like he bails on the people who are out there. He runs, and it puts here that he splits and leaves the others and heads to the research center. So then the next scene is Dr. Cal and Barbara with Jimmy's body, and it's split again several times. So now there's like 5 or 6 different large brain gooey what was it, gelatinous blobs over the place, right? Because again, remember, it's supposed to be splitting and splitting, right? And so then as Gordon, remember, he left the other 2 crew because he's trying to get back to the research facility
by himself.
So as he gets there,
doesn't he know he's in a horror movie?
No. It's the so he gets there, and as he gets up to the research door, the metamorph is there, and it's huge. It's very heady. So like I would say 80% of the body just looks like head and mouth, with big old teeth and some leggy things, right? And I said here, so the Dr. Gordon is at the facility entrance, and he comes across a full-grown metamorph, and says Tracy can see it, and also Tracy sees it on her monitor, right? And I said Gordon is met by the others, and they tell him to move so that they can shoot it, but he hesitates. He's like, it's this strange scene where he's like dumbfounded, or maybe it's controlling his mind, maybe. So he's
it's
just
his creation.
And he's just looking, and they're looking, and at this point they're doing these like back and forth. It shows the metamorph, it shows him, it shows the metamorph. It's like zooming in, zooming in. And finally they shoot at it, but it's able to get away, and when it gets away, it conveniently, next to the, I guess, entrance is some kind of crate-ish pipe that is maybe an exhaust for something, so it goes down in there. And Gordon and the other 2 come up, and they look, and Gordon looks down, and it's one of those scary scenes where you think something's, you're like, oh, it's gonna get it, and all of a sudden there's like some blowback, but nothing happens, right? And as they kind of lean back, that's when it comes and grabs them in, and it actually takes them in. So we're like, again, if this movie's an hour and 20 minutes, we're like an hour and 4 minutes into it. It's almost, so now the last 15, we're coming up, we're coming to the climax, folks. Okay, so I put here that the metamorph. So yeah, it comes back and snatches Gordon. Tracy now is trying to track the metamorph, see where it went. Using the cameras and some kind of technology that's, trying to, where is it in there? It says, but then the metamorph actually enters the control room that Tracy's in. But she's able to escape into that same room where Dr. Cal and Barbara are in. And I right here, it says, while this is going on, Tracy is still wearing her plastic clear high heels. It says the doctor leaves the room with Barbara and Tracy, and the metamorph is black and spider alien like, similar to the xenomorph from the Alien trilogy. So the whole crew meets up. The metamorph has destroyed all the controls in the control room. So the Dr. Cal theorizes that the metamorph is actually also intelligent. Yeah. And Barbara mentions or mentions to try, we need to try to communicate with it instead of kill it. But Mike, in true 80s fashion, like mansplains to her how dumb that idea is, okay? Yeah. And I put this, so the metamorph is now in the room where Jimmy's single protein body and is eating it. Okay, so now it's in that room, and it's eating its food, and you can see the metamorph from the monitor that the crew is in. So every time they're in a different room, there's always these monitors, so you can see what's going on in the other places, right, within the research facility. And it says here that Dr. Cal says that the metamorph wants to use humans as food using the Proto-B. So it catches one human and then turns it into this huge food supply, right? Yeah. So then Gordon shows up. The guy who actually got pulled down by the metamorph, he actually shows up, and it's this scary scene too. He like jumps onto Tracy, and she gets some of the goo stuff on her, right? Yeah. So Gordon shows up, and he's already starting to devolve and shit, whatever else, and grabs at Tracy and gets her all messy with metamorph goo. and then the Dr. Cal injects him with something, maybe morphine or something. So then he's the next scenes you see him in these different phases of devolving, right?
Yeah.
But there's a silver lining with Tracy getting the goo on her, because the next scene is of her and Barbara bathing.
No way.
Yes. Okay. So I put here. So there's some other notes, but yes, so Tracy and Barbara are in the shower, and Barbara it shows them standing, and Barbara is helping Tracy, standing behind her, is helping is like washing her hair, like stringing out the goo from her hair. Okay, and I put here's a very nice shot of them. So it's up close. They even do like a further, like head to toe, angle. Okay, they put in multiple angles. I'm talking about, this is like a minute long. This isn't like a flash.
Yeah. Hey, this is how you get to Chicago Hope, man.
Okay, exactly. The set was amazing. I mean, that's what I was looking at. I wasn't looking at their naked bodies.
No.
I was thinking,
how does that shower head work?
Yeah, and the steam, the amount of steam that they let into the scene was just the right amount. And so the metamorph is half. It says here that the metamorph is half proto B. So they're trying to think. Well, so they start asking Mike, right? The troubleshooter is asking, well, how did you make the metamorph? What was the research?
Yeah.
So what they were able to do was they combined the proto B organism cells with the human cells, and it was
what's her name?
From Annie. Annie volunteered.
Damn.
So Annie volunteered to have proto B implanted in her, and they used the human cell that they needed. So she was the carrier. They used the proto B with Dr. Gordon, because he was the main guy. He used his own. Isn't that like a trip that always, like with Frankenstein, where like the creator wants to kind of like create themselves, sort of? So he uses his human cells with proto B implanted into Annie. Okay, Annie ends up dying from it, but it says the human cell was Gordon's. Gordon is on the ground, all messed up. He's all jacked up. And the Dr. Cal is telling this whole origin story. Annie was implanted in her uterus to give birth. The term was only 2 weeks, though.
Oh, my God.
And it killed her.
Yeah. You think.
Oh, so while flashback to the Tracy and... we need to give I'm going to give you a hand signal when I'm back on you, when you're back on me.
Yes.
That's something that we need to think about. That would help. So... if I do something like this, right?
I know.
While they're in the shower, getting clean, Barbara reiterates her plan. Tells Tracy again that she had brought up earlier about trying to communicate.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens is, after this scene, I don't know if it's the exact next scene, I put here, Barbara tells Tracy in the shower that they need to try to communicate with the metamorph instead of using violence.
Of course.
Okay? Yeah. And I said that, in my notes, it literally says here, amazing full angle shot of the two naked, and you see more Tracy Bush. So... we're gonna have to, for the audience at home, we're gonna have to read that critics, when it talks about what was the word? Did they say exploitive?
A cheap exploitive imitation of the movie Alien.
With gratuitous nudity?
With sex, nudity, uneven editing, cheap special effects, and an audio track that some found unpleasant.
Does it give a name of who says that? What the critic is?
No, it's just whoever wrote this article, I guess.
I'm gonna have to send them hate mail.
But I do have some more interesting tidbit facts about that movie.
Please.
Yeah. So, the production segment of this article too is just one big long sentence, but it's just one sentence.
Okay.
According to the director, Alan Holzman, he began shooting without a script, with these directions from Corman, the producer guy. You have 4 days to write, produce, and direct a 7 to 8 minute opening of a space movie. I'll give you an astronaut and a robot if you need any inspiration. I always wanted to do a version of Lawrence of Arabia in outer space.
Okay.
Here's the other tidbit, though.
Okay.
Its budget was under $1 million,
Okay.
And box office made $4 million. So
that's a 400% return.
It wasn't a flop as far as money goes.
Not at all.
Not one bit. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 60%.
That's actually pretty good.
Not the bottom.
That's not the worst. There's probably probably movies that had $100 million budget that have a worse score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wait, you've heard of the worst movie ever made, right? Plan 9 from Outer Space.
No.
You need to write that one down.
Plan 9.
Plan 9 from Outer Space. It's like pretty widely regarded as like one of the worst movies ever.
Plan 9 from Outer
Space.
Yeah. When was this made?
Oh boy, let me look it up. I remember my dad was a big film buff. I remember him talking about all kinds of stuff, whatever, and I remember him talking about this one, and he would laugh. He loved stuff that was just so bad that it was almost funny.
So these are bad. This movie was not a good movie in the way like a critic would look at it.
Yeah.
But it was so bad in ways that it's good.
Yeah, no, Plan 9 from Outer Space is actually it's 1959. But it was independent science horror fiction. Ed Wood is the guy. There's a whole movie about Ed Wood too. Johnny Depp plays him.
Really?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is about this movie actually. Like it was just really horrible. They have that Golden Turkeys Award. It's like the worst movies. Like you can actually win a golden turkey. Like a Razzie. Yeah, and he got 2 golden turkeys for that. And worst director, worst film.
Oh my God. Well, sometimes if you're so bad, you get recognized. You know. Yeah. Good publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
It's respectively described as the epitome of so bad it's good cinema.
Great. It's gonna be on the review list.
All right,
Seth. It's on the review list.
Good deal.
So I have here that.
Who gets out? Does anybody get out?
Yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there. So the next scene, Tracy and Barbara are now walking. They've come to an agreement that they need to go communicate.
The goo's out.
The goo's out, and they're gonna go communicate. They're gonna negotiate
peacefully.
Yes, they're gonna negotiate with. They're gonna use diplomacy.
Annie's baby, basically.
They're gonna use diplomacy with the metamorph, and. It's funny as they walking over there. So obviously they were showered, so they had to get dressed.
Right.
And as they're walking through the corridors, I said it's funny because they're wearing like spa tops that are bedazzled. They have these nice like robes that are bedazzled, kind of like it's hilarious. And so they enter the room, the lab room where the metamorph was. Right? Remember it was eating?
Yes.
It was eating it.
Right.
And then it's one larger room because then there's other doors that open up and now it's in the control room. Now it's in the control room and the view that you get, the set it's like cocooned itself. It's not just how it was when it was outside the research facility when it attacked Gordon. Now it's kind of in this corner. It looks like it's nesting perhaps. So you see just the front.
So it fed and now it's kind of just.
Yeah, exactly. So you see its front face and mouth and fang stuff, but behind it, it's all this stuff that's growing, and it's affecting you're gonna find out later. It's affecting the control room, and Dr. Cal says that it's been able to get into the control room somehow, right?
Yeah.
So Barbara goes into the room alone. Then it gives the metamorph is looking at her through the blurry sight. Barbara talks to the metamorph, and the scene has the metamorph behind in red lighting. It's dark. It says the metamorph's kind of moving strangely, kind of squirming, and so the Barbara asks the metamorph to show her a sign, and she does that by going up to the control room, and again. Total ripoff from Alien. Remember Ripley in Alien is like there's that scene where she's typing to the computer, asking it stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's a similar kind of situation where she goes in there and she's typing in front of it, and the metamorph replies, to her type. Her question. It says. Barbara asked the metamorph to show her a sign, and the metamorph alters the lights and communications and visuals. Then Barbara thinks it may have keyed into the computer, enabling direct communication with the metamorph. So Barbara, via the computer, asked if they can coexist. And as she asked that, the metamorph technical slithers down towards Barbara, and you think it's going to use the keyboard to like respond and type something.
Yep.
But instead, it like impales and kills Barbara.
Oh man.
So then, then it shows like Tracy seeing it, and so she leaves. She bounces. Now Barbara's dead.
Yep.
Okay. So Gordon, no, the researcher, Dr. Cal. Now the next scene, he's talking to the robot. And they're seen attending to Gordon's decaying body. He samples. So what he does is he samples some of the tissue from Gordon, and the robot asks him how long he's had cancer. So this is one of the way they're gonna kill. So the robot knows. And during the movie, Dr. Cal's always smoking and he's coughing.
I see.
Okay, and Cal takes a sample of the metamorph or the ooze or something, and then he combines it with his tissue or a sample of him because he has cancer. And so the robot asks, well, how long have you had cancer? Because he knows. So the robot knows everything, right?
Yeah.
And so they show a scene where he injects, he does something with his cancer into there, and it destroys it. So then he comes to the realization that, we have to kill the metamorph with my cancer.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get to a crazy scene where how they accomplished that. Okay. All right, we'll wrap it up because this one's this is a great scene. This is a better. The goal is to get close to an hour on some of these podcasts. So it says here the dude. So the black crew member, he goes in and tries to correct the communications because they're like, hey, we can't get out of here anyways because they see Barbara's dead. They go in there, they can't help her. They're like, we need to use the communications for a mayday to get out of here to do something. So he's trying to fix it. He gets killed by the metamorph also. It says, so they run back to where Dr. Cal is, and Dr. Cal tells them that they're gonna have to take his tumor, his cancer out of him and feed it to the xenomorph.
Oh, God.
And that's how the xenomorph is going to die. And so the next cheesy 80s scene is Mike performing this surgery on him, taking it out. So now that doctor's dead. Okay. Yep. And he goes into the room. It's just him and Tracy left.
Yep.
Okay. And he's able to put the cancer into the xenomorph's mouth, and it eats it, and it shows this cheesy scene of it like freaking out and dying. Okay, and it ends with Mike and he's got her on her like on her side, and it pans out the end, and that's the end. And the cool thing that you use your imagination is that now it's just Mike and Tracy there by themselves.
Wow.
So they're gonna, Mike was a lucky guy.
Yeah.
He made out like a real hero.
Well, Tracy Dawn Dunlap stayed in film for 2 more years and then left the film industry to return to her home in Austin, Texas.
Really? So she's so almost local. We could probably
we need Dawn on the show.
She could come on the show and talk about this movie. Oh my God, we're gonna find her. That is, Seth, I've been making a bucket list for the things I want to do later on this show. Yeah. And if we could get Dawn Dunlap, how old? This was in '82. She was probably 20.
She was born in '63. She's 57 right now.
So she's 57. Oh my God. So if we could get her on the show, that would be amazing. But folks at home, we're going to thank Seth for joining us on our 80s movie review.
This is fun.
Don't forget that the show is sponsored. Jamin's Daily is sponsored by Sage Choice Insurance Agency. And give us a call at 361-400-2411. Don't forget that you can also get a quote real quickly. You can get us the information that we need to give you a quote by just going and visiting quotefromjamin.com. Fill out a form, safe and secure, encrypted, sends it to us. We'll get back to you with a quote super fast. So give us a call. Jamin Daily is sponsored by Sage Choice Insurance. 361-400-2411. And again, thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for sticking with us, Seth. I'm over here struggling to close. But
if you made it this far, you were in for a good show. This is something different. It was a lot of fun.
Was it? I believe it was. So, folks, thanks for joining us, and stick with us because the best is yet to come.